I just finished a print that took almost 10,000 grams of resin. This is by far my largest print to date, and I will never print another one this big. So let's go check it out. That's right, everybody. This is the biggest print I have ever done and ever will do. This is the Carnage and Venom diorama from Wicked Art. And this thing is massive. These are all the pieces that go to this model. And today I'm going to show you how I prep this thing, and we're going to put it together and see how big this thing actually is. It is a full 1/6 scale, and I've already started putting some of it together because I had to. But this thing is humongous, and we're going to go and put this together and look at all the details. And yeah, so let's go ahead and try and get this thing. It's like a big jigsaw puzzle. Let's go ahead and try and get this thing together and see what it looks like all put together. So first thing, just so you see how massive this thing is, this is the background. I've already glued it together, put it together. It's several pieces, and it's going to take a lot of filling to make it look good. But this is the back stained glass that goes on a stand behind both models. This is about 15 to 16 inches around. It's about the size of a large pizza or bigger. And then when I get the border around it, it's going to probably be close to around 18 or 19 inches. But again, this is the background part of it. A lot of people that printed this model didn't print this piece because it was so big. All right, so first things first, what I like to do on a model this big, I like to start with the base. Once I get all the base pieces printed out, I like to put them together. I like to dry fit them. And then if I need to do any prep work as far as sanding or anything like that, then I know what I'm up against. So what we're gonna do first is we're gonna do work on Venom's base. Let's get all, this thing is in 4 pieces. So we're gonna put these together and dry fit them and see where we need to get our prep, do our prep work at. And then we'll start from there, and then we'll kind of build up from that. So that's the road I like to take. When you dry fit these things, it's actually, it gives you a good inclination into where you need to start. And as you can see, there's going to be some gaps and seams that we need to fill. So I'm actually going to go over that with you, what I use. So first things first, what we're going to do is we're going to sand some stuff here. I'm not going to go through the sanding process, but you kind of know what to do as far as that's concerned. So we're going to sand this down, and then we're going to glue everything together with a 2-part epoxy. That's the way I like to glue my models. I don't use super glue pretty much on anything unless it's very, very small pieces. And then we're going to take some Aviz epoxy, and we're also going to take this Tamiya putty. This stuff right here works wonders for light gaps and seams and any types of imperfections that are like surface imperfections. We're going to use this, and then I'm also going to use UV resin to cure some of those lines and sand that down as well. All right, so this is why it's important to dry fit your models together. So on these 2 pieces of the base, you have a sub base that actually goes on top of this right here. And this thing is a bitch to get on this whole thing. You got 3 pegs right here. You got this one and these 2 that fit together. So what I'm going to have to do is, I've already dry fitted them together, and it's very snug. And as you can see, it doesn't want to go on willingly. So I'm going to have to force it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue these 3 pieces all together at the same time. And you may have this occasionally, especially on a bigger model like this, where it's multiple sections. Just be careful not to break anything off. As you can see, where the light colored, or where the pieces are right here, looks like it's scratched or where it's dusty. That's because I've had to like force it into there, and it's actually rubbed on that resin. So what I use for this whole process, I use this right here. This is a 2-part quick cure epoxy. They have a 5-minute and a 15-minute. I use the 5-minute. It's a resin itself plus the hardener, and this stuff goes on very, very good. And once it bonds after about 5 minutes, this stuff is not breaking off very easily. and it will last for years. So let's glue this part together, do these parts right here, and get them together real quick, and let's see what we come up with next. Okay, so after about 15 minutes of getting this thing on, the sub base is actually attached to the base. Now, right off the bat, I noticed there is going to be a lot of filling. I have a couple of major gaps here where it was virtually impossible to line up the model. It could have been because of shrinkage, it could have been because of coming off the FEP, but what we're looking at is like right here on these two big seams right here, and to get those to fit together is going to be next to impossible. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to fill those with Avez epoxy. If you don't have any of this stuff, get you some. It is wonders, and I'll actually provide a link for it in the description. That way you can order it off Amazon. It's about $25 for a 2-part. It is basically a sculpting epoxy that you can use for big gaps like this or any other seams or whatever. I have some small seams here where the model was sectioned off, and we're going to use that as well. There we go. All right. So unfortunately, what I'm going to have to do with this model is I'm going to have to actually put it all together with the base and then paint it. I usually like to paint my models separately and then put them together, but there are instances where this one's going to have to be the exception because you got little small pieces like this that actually fit in, and then you're going to have to seam up and everything like that, and you can't take that. See, you can't take that foot out with that being in there like that. So, yeah. So I'll show you how to do that as well. It does take a little finessing to get around when paint. But fortunately, Venom here is basically one solid color, which is black, and then you got the white up here on the webbing and a little bit of shading. It's not going to be that bad. All right, so I have finished Venom. I put Venom up here on the base. It's all glued down, and then I'll go through and we'll start doing the prep work. As far as the arms, this thing comes with 2 different arms. So you have this one, which is a more of a conventional, just regular arm. And then you have this one here that I'm not too excited about. This is like a massive piece, and it's kind of like a big saw blade or whatever like that. And I don't really recall Venom having like this type of, making these type of shapes and everything. Carnage did, but not necessarily Venom. So what I'm going to do is, for the sake of display purposes, I'm actually going to put a magnet up in here, and a magnet on both of the arms, and that way if I decide later on I want to switch them out, then they'll be magnetized. The other thing that I did not do is on the back here there were several different tendrils, and you'll see a couple of holes here in the top up here, and then there's another hole right there. I thought the tendrils were just way overboard. And so what I'm going to do there is I'm going to take Avez epoxy and fill that hole up, and then I'm going to fill this hole up and then texture it, and that way it just looks a little bit more like Venom instead of having all these, it looks like a bunch of fingers coming out the back of him or whatever. And of course the Venom itself has multiple heads to switch out. It's got the Tom Hardy face, half face, and then it's got the other full face, kind of like this one here where you see the teeth. And so what I'll do is I won't have to do any magnets or anything like that on there. Those are pretty much just, they'll just stand up there and we can switch those out. Not a problem. All right, so from the bottom of the base to the top of the back tendril here, it looks like Venom is probably close to about 17.5 inches tall. That's bigger than what I thought. So that just goes to show you how big this model is. The Carnage model will actually probably be closer, I'm predicting around 24 to 25 inches tall, maybe a little shorter, but it is considerably taller than this one here because it actually towers over it with the base in the back and everything. All right, so on this piece right here, this piece of the base, I actually had to cut this in half through Mesh Mixer because it was just too big to put on the build plate. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to glue this piece back together, and then it seems to go on pretty flush, so it'll just be minimal fill in right there on that. And then I'll just use a thin layer of epoxy on that, and you can see where the drain holes, so anything, that's another reason why I put drain holes right here, so any type of glue that gets bubbled up or whatever will just be pressed into the drain holes. One thing I did was I made sure that when I printed this part down with the supports, and I don't put my supports on two conjoining pieces. I did a video on this earlier you can check it out on the channel about filling seams and gaps and how to print stuff without using supports on these conjoining pieces. Okay guys, so here I have the bottom base all glued up. This is one huge base. I got a lot of work to do to it. There's a lot of things that didn't line up right, a lot of filling that's going to be needed, and so I mean, as you can see, it just didn't, it's a lot of pieces, and sometimes you have obstructions and everything. So I gotta make sure these connect together and filled up lines and stuff, but that's what Avaz epoxy does for you. Cathedral, that's actually part of the base. This took I think around 14 hours to print on the settings that I had it on, because I did it a little thicker. I think it's like 1.8 millimeter. Typically I do my models at 1.2 and 1.5, only because I wanted to capture a lot of detail and I wanted to be a little bit, thicker through the columns. And so now we're getting ready to put this on. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is start adding the tendrils to this. This thing has several that are going to wrap around the cathedral here. This is why you can't really put the cathedral on last after you paint it, and this whole model is pretty much like that. It's just not feasible to do. I mean, it's just going to have to wind up being one piece to paint. So yeah, this piece will go right here, and it'll actually wrap around that corner. This will actually go just like that. Alright, so I ran into a problem. Actually getting ready to attach Carnage on here, and I put this piece right here on prematurely. This is why you test fit your models, and this has to actually go inside of there, so I actually had to snap this piece off right here, and then we're going to go ahead and glue everything on, or at least apply glue to everything, and then we're going to attach everything. I don't recommend anybody putting this thing together full size. This has been there we go. It's been a complete pain in the ass, but it's going to be a beautiful model when I'm done. Alright everybody, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to add the trim pieces around to this right here. So all these pieces will go all the way around that, and then it'll actually sit in this right here, which we're going to put the legs onto this, and then we're going to put the lectern on here, and this piece will just set right into there, and this piece will be done. And then of course we got to do all the prep and stuff for it, and then we'll get everything together and take a look at this beast and see what it all looks like. So here's what it's supposed to look like when it's complete. I'm gonna go ahead, I've got everything fit together. I'm gonna go ahead and pull these pieces out so I know where they go and glue them in. And up here at the top, I'm gonna have like a major gap there because this outer piece here did not fit in really good. is all put together. You don't have to glue this, it just sits in there. It's almost like a plate holder, but it does stand 25.5 inches tall. And there is going to be a lot of fun filling this thing with all the gaps and seams where the pieces fit together. That's how many pieces made this thing, and that's my hand there, so that kind of tells you how big this piece is. All right, and here it is. Man, I'm sitting on the other side of my room. That's how big this thing is, and I still can't capture everything in one photo or one video. So this is the logo that also comes with it. It's actually a two-piece parts of the steeples of the cathedral put together. It's a nice little added touch to it. And for Venom, I just have his arm sitting in there because I do have a secondary attachment, and then the head is just sitting on there because there are multiple pieces for that as well. But man, this thing is massive. This is what 10,000 grams of resin looks like, everyone. So Carnage, to the top of his tendril, actually, I think it's this one here in the back, is 28 inches tall. So, and Carnage, I think, is around 18. I mean, I'm sorry, Venom, I think, is around 18 inches tall. And then, of course, the stained glass is about 24, 25 inches tall as well. But this is a striking, massive piece. This is going to take a while to paint. Yeah, go over there, check those guys out at Wicked, and stay tuned for the paint and build up later on. Thank you guys for tuning in, and then thank you guys for tuning in and the support of the channel. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next video. Thank you.